All right. So has anyone here, first off, heard anything about drug policy in Portugal? Anything people talk about? Scott?
Yeah, so I heard that a lot of drugs were illegal in
They're what?
Drugs are illegal in Portugal.
Yes, that's a kind of strange topic that I like to talk about. They are technically not legal, but they're decriminalized. And I'll get into what that means and the misconceptions about drug policy in Portugal, since it's unprecedented. Nobody's had a policy like this before. So basically, the story is in 2001, Portugal decided that they were going to treat drug addiction and drug abuse as a public health issue and not a criminal issue. Then they set up a bunch of committees for with experts on drug abuse, and they basically stopped prosecuting for a few years. And people wonder why this happened. And a source from Mike.com, which is a news source that's very pro-legalization, says that with the dictatorship that ended in 1974, which was very isolationist, it created a bunch of policies that were kind of edgy for their time, and drugs were completely legalized in the 70s. And it was really high addiction because nobody had any education about drugs in during the time of the dictatorship. So when these new drugs were coming in, people saw them as a sign of liberation, and people had no idea that it's bad to do too much cocaine because, yeah, so basically they're doing this. Addiction and HIV, all these horrible things are at an all-time high. And you have a conservative backlash in the 80s that goes and cuts down on the supply of drugs via interdiction, but they never talk about the demand. So people are still getting these drugs just at higher prices. And basically, right now, the drug market is at an all-time high. And then by 1999, Portugal saw rates of drug abuse as the highest in the EU, and also numbers of HIV and AIDS deaths were going way up. They decided they had to change their policies. So they took the approach of cutting down on the demand for drugs rather than the supply. And according to the World Federation Against Drugs, this isn't actually helping. They say that it's really questionable whether numbers have actually gone down because the government is the one who's doing the studies. So of course they'd want to make it look like what they're doing is good. And so the question is, are they legal? And the answer is not really. Most of the time, I'd say about 90% of the time, if you're using drugs and a police officer sees you, they're not going to do anything. But if you have a large amount or something, or you're being belligerent, they're going to stop you. And what they'll do is they'll make you go to a committee. It consists of a doctor, a lawyer, and a social worker. And they'll dissuade you basically from drug addiction via treatment, things like that. And basically people are like, well, that doesn't matter because they'll never really catch you anyway. But if they do, they can do a lot of things. They can ban you from leaving the country. They can tell you can't go to certain parts of town. They can even take a lot of your possessions. We have that here too. It's called civil asset forfeiture. If they think you're doing anything suspicious regarding drugs, human trafficking, they can just take any assets they believe to be involved. So if you're a dealer or a trafficker, you're going to get really stiff penalties. Since decriminalization, what's changed? Well, according to a travel source, cocaine's at an all-time low price. So there's that, if that's your thing. Portugal is also now a destination for a lot of people who are uneducated on their policies. And the government takes it very seriously and does treat it as a health issue. So if you're looking to go somewhere to have fun because I know we're all in college, then Portugal's not the place. Also, the only verifiable public health fact about Portugal right now is that the overdose deaths are at the second lowest in the EU, and it was the highest in 1999. So that's a quick 20-year turnaround. Excellent. I hope you guys all learned something about drug policy today.